You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 143. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where I show you how life with less alcohol is more fun than you think. I work with high achievers who struggle to drink a glass of wine without it turning into 2 bottles. I'm the one they call when they want to take it or leave it. So if you want to change your relationship with alcohol that doesn't involve counting days sober, you're in the right place. And welcome back to the podcast. Hello, everybody. How have you been? I have been working hard on my book. I'm writing a book about my work. And happily, this one has not been 9 years in the making. For any of you listening to the podcast, you might have heard me talk about my novel. It took 9 or was it 11 years? Anyway, it was a huge amount of years. This one I've been working on for the past 8 months. I've got my head down in it. It is fun. Anyhow, so this is actually my birthday episode. Happy birthday to me. So I thought I would cover a topic that I feel has become a bit of a gift from past me to present me. We're going to be talking about excuses. Everybody's favorite topic, I know. So the first thing I want to say is that our brains are designed to come up with excuses when we're doing something, especially something for the first time, or something that we feel any kind of doubt or hesitancy about. Maybe we're afraid it won't work. Maybe we're uncertain of the outcome, or we don't know why we're even doing this in the first place, right? I remember that way, beginning of my journey in changing how I drank, because I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm like, well, why are you doing this? You're trying to stop something you enjoy, right? So we have this kind of mixed opinions there. Our brains are wired to come up with excuses, just like our children are wired to come up with all the reasons why, they're right and we're wrong when they're trying to get us to, say yes to something that they want. So as of now, you have my permission, you have my express permission to never call yourself lazy or incapable of drinking less simply because you have excuses and simply because sometimes you happen to use them. So if your brain is wired to make excuses, to bring excuses forth, I want you to see how you sitting around thinking that these excuses need to go away before you take any action is going to be so frustrating, right? As 100% it can't happen. It's just not going to happen, right? Even if you say, yeah, I'm all for it, there's going to be some little voice, oh yeah, right? Some little excuse in the back. So I want you to instead be willing to confront reality and the truth of your situation and change how you think about it. I get asked a lot, Anna, what is the difference between a reason and an excuse? And for me, it's all about how you feel about them, right? And I find this when I'm working with people to say, yeah, that was for sure. I said, why did you do whatever it was you did? And they often look a little bit humble, but you don't need to. And it's like, all right, yeah, that was an excuse. That wasn't a reason. It felt I tried to manufacture a reason in the moment, right? So how we think about them is so important. And also what we make the excuses mean about us, right? If you're walking around thinking this is a normal thing to do, especially when you're trying to do something for the first time, or especially when something's hard or all those things, then you're going to expect the excuses, right? You're not going to think, oh, I'm so bad. I'm not like this person over there who never has this problem, right? Now, I believe everything happens for a reason in life, even if we don't know it in the moment or we don't understand it. And this is true of excuses too, right? I like to think they are signs, right? They are signs of something for us to figure out, because some of our excuses look so innocent and we might trip right over them. Listen, it's really easy if you recognize you're having an excuse, right? One more won't hurt. It's one of my favorite ones that used to be. If you recognize that, it's so easy to go to, there I go again. I'm such a screw up, I'm such a failure because I can never stick to my plan and my friends want me to drink and now I'm going to just give in, right? But if you stay out of that shame and blame, then figuring out what you need to do to drink less in the face of an excuse becomes far less traumatic and much easier. And really, your excuse is going to show you the way, because what you're worried about and what's telling you, right, is the reason why you want to be doing that thing, right? You want to be curious. Why is it telling me this? There's something here about this situation that I'm thinking that I don't yet understand. But if I did understand, I'd understand why I'm thinking the excuse, and then I would take a different action. So I want to give you three simple steps to handle and deal with excuses. First, I want you to know them. I want you to see your excuses for what they are. Right? However painful this is, I want you to be able to face up to that and take responsibility for that. What does that mean? I recommend you write them all out. Just write them out. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Just write them out. These are all the things. These are all the excuses. You don't have to show anyone. You can rip up the piece of paper. There's no need to feel guilt and shame. But I want you to notice if that is how you feel. But on the other hand, just say, okay, factually, these are the excuses that come up. And I know they're excuses. That's really useful information, because that means that when you are in the moment, right, when you're about to do the thing that you probably don't want to do, right, it's the freak out time. I'm actually going to say no to this drink right now in front of all these people, right? In that moment, your excuse, whatever you come up with, is going to feel real. If it says you can't say that, you can't say no, Anna, you're going to, it's rude. You're going to embarrass the hostess, right? You're going to think that's true. And then you're going to spin out. This is what I would do. You spin out and think, well, I'm just never going to be able to drink less because I'm always in this kind of scenario. But I want you to think, what is just as true in that moment is that today matters more than anything you've done in the past. I mean, really think about that. As you're listening to this podcast today, this moment matters more than anything in the past. That what you decide to drink in this moment, or the next time you have the opportunity, if you're listening to this in the morning, that this moment outweighs every drink you've taken in the past, however many years. Because now you have the opportunity to change the future. Your excuses, my friend, are not real, even if they feel real. And even if you don't believe that, I want you to sort of adopt Anna's belief on that, right? I'll let you share my belief. Excuses only feel that way because you have spent so much time thinking in that way. It's kind of like an echo chamber with you and your excuses. Oh, there you go. It's going to be too much. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, we don't even question it, which is why in step 1, I want you to write them down. And then thirdly, so first I want you to write them down. Second, I want you to be able to hear them in the moment. That's a skill in itself. You might think it sounds so easy. It really isn't. Right? So I want you to be able to hear these so that we're able to take different action in the moment. And part of that different action is I want you to rebut your excuses. You've got to understand that our excuses have a purpose. So get good at hearing them. And when you've got good at hearing them, we want to get good at saying something back to them that's equally as true, right? We don't want to go to, your excuse might be what you always drink because, you love it so much. You don't want to go to thinking, yeah, but it's poison and I hate it. And as you all know, I don't ever want to talk about alcohol in such a way because I just don't think it helps. Right, so we don't want to flip to, yeah, okay, everything's lovely and I don't believe it's going to help me in this situation because you don't believe that. So it wants to be something that's equally true. So we want to go, it's almost as though we want to go on the defense, but not in a kind of scaredy cat way, but more from the fact that of giving equal airtime, right? Where we say something that is equally true, something that we believe, right? So that we're not just going to tell ourselves an excuse and then we're agreeing with ourselves and going off down the drinking route before we even know what's happening. So for instance, if you hear an excuse, well, one more is no big deal, right? One response to it, rather than saying to yourself, well, actually it is a big deal. Now, if you can go there, great, but that might not be something that you can do to start with. So I just want you to recognize and address and rebut that excuse. You might say something like, aha, my brain always thinks this. Yeah, it's used this excuse for a long time and that's okay. I'm glad, in fact, that I'm hearing it now. I'm glad that I have something else to tell myself in the moment. And that something else might just be, Yeah, it might be no big deal. For me, it is a big deal right now, but do you know what? I'm going to back myself to follow through on my drink plan. That to me is more important right now, even if I don't believe maybe that this is no big deal, right? You have to rebut it in a way that is going to make you feel capable. You don't have to feel confident, capable of taking action. So that's a 3-step way of handling excuses. I want to offer as well, though, that there might be times when you say, look, I'm just going to agree with my excuse and go with it. Right? So you might hear something, you might be, that, one more is no big deal, and you might agree with it and you think, yeah, I'm actually going to have that drink. Now, I want you to remember you always have choice. So you have the choice to do that. But if you are listening to this podcast, if you are making the effort to change your relationship with alcohol, we're going to want to get super curious on why in the moment, when you see the excuse, you're willing to just agree with it and go with it. So I don't want you to write off the fact that you did that, but I also don't want you to go on about it either. I just want you to ask yourself questions. And please, if you do follow through on an excuse, if you go along with it and you have the drink, you satisfy the craving, I just want you to like your reason, right? So you better get really cozy with it. Because here's the thing. If you don't like your reason, if you say, look, I'm just going to do it anyway, right? Yeah, boo to you, excuse, I'm just going to do it. But you don't like your reason. I think that's a clue that you're probably going to do something that you're going to regret for whatever excuse you've come up with. And at minimum, be aware of that, right? So that you are able to take different action next time, if that is what you choose. Now, on the topic of excuses, I want to come to the big excuse. And do you know what it is? Any guesses? It's simply this. I have failed so many times, or words to that effect, right? This is when you are feeling hopeless and it's like, oh gosh, this is just nothing is working, right? I've just failed so many times. I remember the first day I decided I was going to try and do this again. And remember, for me, this had been a frequent request of myself. And I really, at the time, really didn't think I could do it. I mean, again, I've spoken a lot. I can see myself as a very capable person, but I was really, really, really heavy on doubt. On that day, right, when I began what became the climb out of this, out of the habit, I can assure you I was not thinking, yep, this is happening. I'm on my way. I bet I'm even going to teach other people how to do this one day. I bet I'm going to have a podcast. Yep, let's go. No, none of that. I was far from that. I was 180 from that. I was just so sick of not being able to do this, right? I was thinking, I'm going to figure this out. I had the figure it out energy, right? And that figure it out energy for me was stronger than all of what I would call excuse energy. I just wanted to do something that would help me feel better, right? And I was willing to figure it out. And I was able to believe that I would be able to figure it out, even if I didn't believe in the result. I want you to see the difference there, right? There's a difference between the process and the result. So I want you to wrap your arms around something that you do believe. If you are thinking, the big excuse, I failed so many times, and if that's keeping you stuck. For instance, can you believe that today you're going to do something that's a little bit better than yesterday? You may not know if it's going to work, right? But you know what doesn't work, and that's feeling sorry for yourself, hating this, and expecting stuff to change without you doing anything about it. That was already not working, right? I mean, I've been stuck in that for ages. This isn't working, and I hate doing this. So I needed a plan B. I needed to see if I could prove myself wrong, or I would just go out trying. The only thing matters, my friend, is what you are planning on putting in your mouth. Are you able to do a little bit better than yesterday? What you did last night doesn't matter. How much you were drinking in your 20s doesn't matter. None of that matters. It really doesn't. It feels imperative. It's important and scary. But if you think about it rationally, really what you decide to drink today is a fresh decision. You're either going to make that decision based on who you'd like to be tomorrow, or on who you have been. I encourage you to think of who you want to be. You don't need to believe you can be free of the craving to get started. I mean, you really don't want, that might be too big a leap. I promise you that doesn't matter. I've taught people this. You just got to believe that you can do something different, a little bit better than you did yesterday. And I want you to consider where you're using your excuses, right? Are you willing to acknowledge your excuses are normal? Are you willing to see them when they come up? And are you willing to tell yourself something in the face of them? Because remember, an excuse can't make you do anything. The worst thing it can do is make you feel something, but whatever you do next is up to you. And that really is the truth. And now I come to my homework element. Yes, it's nearly back to school for the children. So I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to consider this. Every success story started with a load of excuses, right? And the biggest one is for us, or at least for me, was I can't stop this over drinking, right? And another sort of related excuse was, and the small stuff doesn't matter. And this is why we flip so much into this all or nothing. We say, right, I'm going to be really strong and I'm really going to try to just go alcohol free for 2 months, even if I don't want to be alcohol free, right? So because we think it doesn't matter, that we just reduce it a little bit, but the small stuff matters. And I realize that when we doubt and when we worry, we actually do stuff to prove ourselves right. Right? I'm scared about this, and that's why I'm thinking this way. And here's the thing, right? People who are not changing their drinking, they are letting the excuses be right, instead of deciding to do the right thing in the face of the excuse. Now, I want you to think about your number one excuse, and then I want you to ask, why do I have that excuse? Why is it kind of on repeat? What is it about it? What is it telling me? That's the first bit. And then I want you to challenge that with something you can say to yourself that is equally true, right? To rebut that excuse. And then I want to ask how you feel. How do you feel as you actually do this work and you identify the thought to challenge your excuse? Right? What's that feeling? And then I want you to take action from that place again and again and again. So that's your helping for this week. A lovely dose of excuses. And if you have been giving yourself excuses as to why you're stuck and all the reasons, you might be calling them reasons, all the reasons why it's impossible for you to change, I want you to challenge those as well. And I want you to consider what it would be like if you were free of this. And I want you to know that that is on offer to you, that there is an opportunity to change this that you have found by listening to this podcast, by finding me. That I am your key to being able to rebut your excuses and get into figuring it out energy, and one of Anna's specialities, and to create the relationship with alcohol that is right for you, however that looks. Why would you wait? I know that's what you want. You know that's what you want. So do yourself a favor and reach out to me. Go to 90dayslater.co and book your free discovery call there, where we can talk about you. It's all about you and where you currently are with your drinking and where you want to be. And then we can figure out what it would be like for us to work together to get you the result you desire. So that's on 90dayslater.co. Otherwise, I will see you next week. If you like what you're learning in the podcast and you want to take the work further and achieve total freedom around alcohol, let's talk. I help my clients stop reaching for that first glass of wine the moment 6 p.m. rolls around and they don't miss out on life. Email me for more information on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you did enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and review to help others find the 90 Days Later podcast.